Okay, so the way that will work, because this will print. So, am I trying to out? Here we go. Okay, so this can, this is the ideal location to get along now that that swing is printed, right? However, we stand the chance that we're going to hold this uptrend that I highlighted in the morning, and we're just going to come off of it and recover right back to this 2104, 2102 area, right? This news is BS. I'm not saying that it's BS, but that would obviously be the conclusion of the market. I don't care what this news is. Or, so there's two ways to handle it. You take along here, but you had to be prepared for it to come from 2098 all the way down to 2094 and add more here for a shot back up to this 2102. Those are the two ways to handle it. So um, it's more powerful if it'll come and swing to a new low now and then push up. Um, However, there's no certainty. Also, the other way to get position, which is what I'm actually going to work towards, we're going to take our, let's erase this. Let's format this. Okay. Here's your 56 degree trace. This is at 2097. And that becomes our that's a 50-60 retrace from the low to the high. Okay, again, I want to be clear. You have to be prepared for it to come down and hit support at 2093, 2093.50 to 2091.50. That's the most ideal location in this trade. Also, for those that recall earlier, right, when we were in here and we trapped where the circle was, when we came back in, this was the trap. And I got a conflicting signal here, right? And the time, it just took an extremely long time from the time it trapped at 10:45 all the way over to 1 o'clock. It's hard to sit in the trade when it just sits this way. But you can see that trap back in, along with the inability to get back above and hold above Globex high on NQ, is what opened this up for this push back to the downside. So my long will be, I'll be looking long at 2097. I'll be prepared to reload that long, to add to the second half of that long at 2093.50. Your appropriate stop, right, and this is where it gets frustrating, is 2 points behind this zone. So that's a lot of range, right? That's potential 8 points worth of range. So I want to be clear where the setup is, okay? Setup number one is this 50-60 retrace right here at 2097. I guess I'll take that back. The most aggressive entry is right here at 2098. 2097 is a 50-60 retrace from this move. Let's actually adjust this by a hair. It actually comes out to 2096.75 is the 50 retrace, right? And then my other entry will be at 2093.50. My stop will be 2 points behind. For the most aggressive, this is where you're entering up in this area. For people who are least aggressive, you're looking to the 2093.50. But either way, once this triggers, if it does swing to a new low, once it closes back above this 20, what's going to be key is to get back above 2094 and 3/4. That'll open this up to squeeze back to 2100 to 2102 would be my guess. 50-60 of this move. Let's see. Bring it down here. My guess is we would squeeze back to 2100 for our backside test. So those are the setups. You know, we just had that 50. We just came into that 50-60 retrace at 2096 and 3/4. I have a limit at 2096 and 3/4. And again, I'm going 1/3 here, balance down here, 2093.50. Does anyone have any questions over that? And at this point, I have no fill. We came to it. We just missed. Let's open this up a little bit. I'm going to adjust the entry by hair and go at 2097.
Order filled.
I'm done at 2097, along 1/3 of the position. Again, I'm fully prepared for it to come all the way back into that zone. Like I said, that would be the best location. This gives you the option, right, of understanding how the trade will work. Because what's the frustration when we get the swing setups is that you don't get perfect location. So this is where you slow down and you look at your trade plan and you go, what does my trade plan call for? The problem with this location is it's below Globex. These are the negatives. It's below Globex low. It's in front of the zone, right? The positives, look at the stretch from 2105 down to essentially 2095. 10 points, and we got a 4 points of rotation out of that location. From today's swing high, which is right at the top of the Globex high, 2107.50, we have 12 points of rotation down, right? So additionally, this leaves all this area poorly auctioned right through here. So remember, what auctions down poorly one way can re-auction all the way back up the other way, and that would make our ultimate target 2104.75 to the upside on this trade. And then this lets you make a decision based on what your risk parameters are as to how you can handle it. The other way people would do this, but this creates a lot of stops. I do not like this method I'm about to show, but it is another way of managing it. Is this. Okay, you put your stop 2 ticks below this 2095, right? But then you have to be willing to do one of two things. 2095, it ticks down, and then it closes back into this above this 2096. You have to be ready to take it again. I don't like that because it sets you up for taking in a lot of entries and exits and gets your, I guess some will call it your monkey going where you end up over trading, right? So you can take it, but no matter how you do it, if you're taking the trade up here, you have to be willing to take the trade 93.50 to 91.50 back to the long side. The other way to also do it is, as you can tell, this has become our swing low for the now. So you can also choose to completely avoid taking it here. If we push down to 2093.50, once we close back above 2095, using whatever the swing low is your stop for, again, what I'd call a structural trap trade, meaning structure has been established here, and then a push back up. That would be the other way that I would look at it. So we've now pushed up 1 point out of that 2097. So again, you have to have your decision as to how you're trading this. If this is a scalp, given the size of the rotation, I would shoot for a 2-point rotation up, meaning 2099 would be my backside. Also, considering this is a 50-60, right now the 50-60 of this move is sitting right here at 2100, which is where I'd be prepared to come out of most of this trade, right? So either way, you're set up, you have good trade location. You have your 3 options, to be clear. You can take the trade here at the 50-60 retrace. You had a chance for a skip. And again, if you're trying to figure this out right now, it's too late. You should already have a trade plan. My trade plan says that I'm going to try to shoot for a move back to this 2103, 2104 area on an extension. I'm going to try to get out of the majority of this trade here at 2101 and a quarter to 2100, right? It also says that I took 1/3 here, smaller size. I'm going to add to it down here at 2093.50, and from 2093.50 I'm going to try to slingshot it back to 2099 and a quarter, and that should give me a nice trading profit. I'm not sure which way it'll play out. That part is very hard to know. So now I'm just waiting patiently. And does it look ugly and does it look scary? Yeah, it always looks ugly and it always looks scary. Whenever you get a move like this, where we haven't been moving all day, we've broken out of balance and we shot straight down. Yeah, ultimately if we get down here, I'll be full size, Ron. This 2093.50, I'll be full size here. And now it's wait time. Again, you have to scale this differently than it's just a scalp because of the time function involved. Remember, when I get a trade that's a swing trade, it can take 1 to 3 hours to complete. Now in this case we have 45 minutes, but it could take till the end of the day to let this trade play out, right? And that's the other negative, is the time of day. We're taking the trade in the last hour. That makes it much harder. I guess this is a response, if I understand, to rioting in Greece. My guess is we re-auction this whole area. It's just a question of whether we do it from here or we do it from here back up. And for all the negative news, we're down 1 point on NQ. It's not exactly earth-shattering. Okay, 2099, I'll scale half of the third that I have. Assume I can get up there. I'm already limited in there. We just missed that 2099. Now, I want everyone to be clear, as you know, this is a swing trade. Okay, if your mentality or your trade plan calls for you to scalp, right? I would go ahead and be taking some off at 5 and 6 ticks, given how slow it was today for the majority of the day, right? We're in danger of just going through and rattling around here, right? I'm going for the larger trade. Generally I like the larger trade to kick in earlier than it has. And so I'm not sure that I have enough time to pull the trade off, frankly, right? So I have a scale set in at 2099. We'll see if it hits. And that also means falling back to your trade plan, right? If your trade plan says, I've got to get this done in 10 minutes or 15 minutes, follow your trade plan, right? If your trade plan says take swing trades, follow your swing trade, but your swing trade should be lower volume and lower exposure than your scalp trades. You need just one little push up. Okay, there's someone standing on it at 99 and a quarter, 99.50. So I'm going to make an adjustment here. I'm going to take a little bit off, 1/3 of what I have here at 20.98.
Order filled.
I've done that now. Again, my intention is to get it down here, right, to load it back up. So taking some off at 20.98. I'll take more off at 20.99 and leave a small trailer. And then my hope is that we will wind back down and give me a location down here. And it looks like I'm going to get that opportunity sooner than I wanted. So took a little bit off 20.98, and we'll see if we can't get some here at 20.93.50. Again, proper scalp location for this is 20.93.50. This 20.95 is not a zone. I just put it in there, right? And keep in mind, the biggest problem here is this NQs into this poorly auctioned area. If it rips all the way through because people panic, that's our biggest risk right now. Hey Ron, Ian, am I laying the various setups up clearly enough for y'all? Is that making sense? Okay, great. Again, half the battle is just being on the right side. Earlier today, we had the right location, it just took too long, right? Even if I think we hung out with this for almost 45 minutes, if it would just given any kind of rotation to the downside, would have been good. So remember, this took a good 45 minutes. The thing we have working against us that's going to be hardest here is the time of day, right? So, but one thing I am looking at, the euro is not getting killed in this. It's been pretty stable. This is all reaction at NES itself. We're back on, guys. of the things you want to note while you're taking this is anything you're uncomfortable about, anxious about, put it down in your journal. These are the community members in your head that are jacking with you, that are trying to keep you out of your good trades, right? If you're worried about getting stopped, right, which is normal to worry about getting stopped, if you're worried about that, then note that, right? Go, hey, I'm concerned about the stop, and um, and then go through your reasonings. Why is your stop the place it is? And then ask yourself the question. One of the things you have to ask when you're taking a swing setup like this, which is essentially out of position, right? One of the things you have to ask yourself is, well, am I cut out to take these trades? Is this part of my DNA? Is this part of my trading DNA that I'm have a constitution and a stomach to handle this, right? And then you may go, hey, I can only take scalps. I still have a portion sitting at 20.99. So the second scale is hopefully coming up here. Maybe not. Okay, and then ask yourself, you have to look at your trade plan and go, do I know this is a good setup? Or do I have concern about this being a good setup? Okay, so you have 30 minutes left to go here. Okay, remember, last half hour can be wild. Okay, that really kind of takes this area off the chart. Okay, the other thing that I would do is, because there's only a half hour left, I'm going to go ahead and compromise and take another scale at 20.9850. Well, I didn't get it in quick enough. I'm going to try to get 20.9850 done. So that's 1 point and 1.5 point scales. Again, considering we took it in the middle of nowhere location-wise, not bad. I got a little bit left. I now will not take a scale at 20.99, although apparently it will be hitting. And then the next thing you have to decide now is this. We're in the closing drive of the day, right? Damn, there's that 20.99. I should have just been just slightly more patient. But if I close it out now, I won't have enough for the hook to the upside. So now you have two choices, right, with the remainder of the jab. You can put a stop 1 point below this 20.95 and see if we hook back up. But here's my deal. We're really just pushing right back up into that area that's strong. On the remaining balance, I really wouldn't want to go negative at this point. So I'm just going to move my stop to 20.97, break even on balance, and hope that sticks. Not as big a trade as I wanted, but a good trade nonetheless. And it still has a chance of stretching. Okay, does anyone have any questions over the way I handled the trade or entered the trade or managed the trade? Had I been a little more patient? Okay, again, there's two caveats to this, right? The only reason I'm taking the trade here is because I've got my swing indicator is triggering long, right? Let's go through that one more time so everyone's with me. Swing indicator triggers long, really up here, right? We look for a 50-60 pullback, gives us our entry. We get swung up for the first time, kind of chops around. We take a point here. Our target is just 20.99 for the second target. I got impatient, took 1.5. But it's choppy and we're in the final half hour. It's not the best place in the day to trade, right? Our ideal trade location sits here at 20.9350, right? We haven't even gotten that. What we'd like to see is it actually would be best for us from a profit standpoint is if we'd swing down here, get long, get back about 20.95, and then swing to 20.99. That is like our amen, hallelujah trade setup, right? We get that about 40% of the time on this particular setup. So I think we handled that very well. Yeah, actually, Damien, that's a good point. There is an LVN. Damien's pointed out at 20.99 Like I said, the 1/3 position size I took, which was small to begin with, I've already scaled 2/3 of it, and I've moved my stop to break even. Damien, if you're good kicking it out, that's fine. I don't have a short indication yet. I still show us long, and the reason why I'm holding that last part is because I know that we can auction all the way through this. Right? So it has to get back above and trap above Globex low, but NQ's already done that. As a matter of fact, this is the second A-grade trap on NQ that we have. So rolling back up, no shock. It's hard to keep the market down. Markets rarely close on the low of the day. Okay? Everyone should be profitable on this trade who took it. even if you didn't take it, you should be taking detailed notes. I'm actually recording this. I'll post it on either StockTwits or the private screen later today. So that's a 3 points from 2097 to 2101. 3 points potentially, right? We still don't know that we won't close on the low of the day, right? Because we're obviously reacting to news, but I really don't think there's any news here, right? So, but that was a nice stretch right up into the 50-60, right? When we rejected here. My guess is we close right in this area. That's my guess. Again, my stop, 2097 on the last third. And then, yeah, I am stretching my legs, trying to see if I can't get a push up to 2102, 2103, and re-auction that poorly auctioned area. Maybe that's Fantasyland, maybe not. Either way, I have no risk on the trade left anymore. Did anyone besides me get paid on that? Ian? Ron? Damien? Anyone? I feel like it's Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Nice job, Ian. Okay. But you see it, you see how it's set up, Ron? Okay. So now we just sit and wait. That was kind of cool. Especially after we kind of got, thanks to Miss Yellen, jerked out of our short earlier today. That's at least some compensation dollars, right? Yeah, I'd like 93.52. I really think if we could, it would have been nice if we would have stretched down to 93.50. That'd have been a fantastic stretch, right? That just made my day. Maybe my week the way it's going right now with how slow it is. The other point to this is, guys, when it was slow and choppy, if you just avoid that area while it's slow and choppy and grinding you up over and over and over again, right? Because you're trying to make something work in there, and you wait for the stretch, and look what a nice trade we got set up. You don't have to waste your energy in the chop, right? Here, I'll see if I can pull that out a little bit. If you don't waste your energy in this, right? We tried to take a short, right? This is our goal right here. If we close back in here, 2104 was the short. It took forever and a lifetime. We just bailed on it, break even. So, but if you didn't waste your energy trying to make it go up or down in here, and you waited for location, so a couple of things happened. First of all, we came right to that uptrend line that was established from the gap 2 days ago, right? Re-auctioning some poorly auctioned area. I had my swing long print on my proprietary indicator. We waited for a retrace to get location, right? No guarantee, but it minimizes risk versus chasing it up here. And that gave us areas for scales. And now it leaves us in a position to let it trail up. And if they can squeeze them back to 2102, 2104 at the end of the day, I still make out okay. If they don't, I still, make out okay, not great. But it gives me a shot, right? And I'd still be willing to bet if overnight we swing down to this 2093.50, 2091.50, that we'll see responsive buyers back up. I won't be up to trade it, but that's my guess. All this is a caveat of if Greece, screws the pooch tonight and votes no, that's a different story because we'll have a 30-point gap down again. 10 to 30 has been the rule of thumb, right? You got to remember what really put the juice at the end of that blowdown, I'll call it, right? The last little push towards that 45-30 area was not Greece. It was China, right? And from what good job, Damien. Good discipline. We really haven't been able to push below 2070 on Greece, right? Well, with the exception of the 2033 from the gap down when they voted no the first time. But since then, really China's the last one that really gave us kind of that last final push. And China's stabilized, right? It's just stabilized. And if everyone will recall a month ago when we were in super boring markets, it took a lot to get the markets down, right? Like it's not like this Greece thing's really all that new, and it was slow and grindy. You really had to take advantage of moves down like this and be willing to sit through some bumpiness to get the extensions back to the upside. We don't have very much time to let that play out, being the time of day that it is. I don't know that we'll actually get this extension back to re-auction this, but I'm pretty confident. The only question is whether we come in and we hit 2093.50, then re-auction to 2105, or if we come to 2105, finish the auction, and then possibly come back to 2093.50. That's really the question in my head that I'm trying to figure out. Well, let's have a nice end of day 2100 to 2104 little short squeeze. Everyone thought the world was going to end. Let me get out of my short mercy run. Okay, in just a couple of minutes here, regardless of how we close out, I'm going to go over the homework from aftermarket, right? Since I already have my risk controlled, I have my stop in place. This is going to be a good day because I got a coaching client right after the close. So, in let's just call it 5 minutes, we will go over the homework and do it and do as much of it as we can cover as a group. Okay, so did everyone get it, or does everyone need a copy of the homework sheet that I put out? If you do, please send me a message. I'll get it to you. Good job, Ron. I'll be making improvements to that as we move along, by the way, guys. Again, to reiterate, the last little piece of this trade has a stop on it at 2097 for me. If it comes back in, it comes back in. Damien, good read on the low volume node, by the way. Yep, hold on a second. Sure will. It's still in rough form, but we will make the best of it, all right? One sec, let me find it. Okay. Remember the emotion associated with this, even if we close at the lows, guys, right? You got guys looking at this going, man, we're going to close at the lows. It's going to get crunched. Shorting in this area, okay, there's been a few times I've shorted the end of the day and been successful at it. But for the most part, what you're doing is just bagging yourself in to get short squeezed right up at the end of the day. Just keep that in mind. So let's see what I got here. Homework. Nope. And it may work today, but go look at your charts. The number of days that it does work is very few and far between. Okay. There you go, Randy. Okay, so what time is it? Let's go ahead and get started on it. So, first of all, first question is pretty easy. Define the current range, swing high, swing low. Are we at the top, middle, or bottom of that range? So that's pretty easy to do. While this is going, let's just pull up a volume profile chart. And this is easy. I'd say as of now, bottom of the range is either this open gap, I'd say 2070 is the bottom, right? The first intermediate important area is 2084, okay? Top of range, as of today, obviously today's the swing high, right? And we're still one timing to the upside, right? But I would say this 2110 to 2115 is the top of the range, with extensions to 2122 being what I would consider trap areas until we close above it, right? Meaning these are areas where people who try to get long up here got consistently trapped back to the downside. Essentially the mirror image of what this 2070 to 2065 was on the downside prior to it getting broken, right? So it makes sense that now we're back above it, that this exact same area, this 2070 to 75 area, become very, very key, 2084 being first in that area to be important. So let's define bottom of the range. For right now, within our spectrum, this 2070 being the very bottom of the range. And then I would say the most immediate top of the range is this 2110 followed by 2115 and 2122. We're okay, and we're at the, I'd say we're at the top third of the range right now. Okay. I don't need all this open. Okay. Next, let's go to what's today's first hour range? First half hour range. Well, it's easy enough to look at. Here, we'll just go over here. So the first half hour range, roughly 210450 to 99.75. What is that? Let's just call it 5 points. Easy enough. Way under what the range has been in the first half hour for compared to the last 2 weeks, right? So what do we? Okay, so why is that question important? And then the first hour range wasn't much greater than that, right? Here's the first hour. We're basically 2105 to 2099, so just over 5 points. Why is that an important question? We know that when we get a 5-point range in the first hour, right, 6-point range in the first hour, 5.75, thank you, Bill. We know that when we get that tiny range in the first hour, how's the price action going to be? It's usually going to be slow and grindy. Boom, immediately. You can set yourself up mentally. Like, I know I suck at slow and grindy. I know it for a fact, right? I still try to make money in it, but I know that I suck. So I can do one of two things. First of all, I can brace myself to go, it's going to take a while, right? Because I know I have this experience. I know I've spoken to others that have this experience, right? You sit there and it's slow and grinding. You're just waiting for that trade to set up, right? And you build so much tension waiting for that trade to set up that eventually you go, F it, I can't stand waiting anymore, and you get popped. Okay, so what you can do is go, I know it's going to be slow and grindy. Let me take a stance back, a step back, and reset my mind so that I'm not going to get killed in this scenario. Okay. Now, on the other hand, if it had been over 10 points, what's the first thing you're thinking? Hey, I got 10 points. I know I'm looking for a 6 to 8 point rotation minimum for my trade location, right, to get set up, and that I can be patient for that. Now I know what I'm looking for through the course of the day. It's always relative, right? If we go to a 50-point range, that would change to a certain degree. But as of now, 5 points is pretty damn tiny, pretty damn slow. And then the other question is, was that range greater than, or less than, or greater than the prior day? So obviously, if we look at yesterday's opening range, clearly in the first hour, we rolled from 2091.50 all the way up to 2097. Actually, it wasn't that much more. Look, that tells you how tiny it was. 91.50 to roughly 98. What is that? 7 points. So slightly smaller than prior day's range. Still slow and grindy, right? Okay. So what are we looking for in that question? What we're looking to see is if the range is all of a sudden starting to expand, so that we have a heads up when it is, and we all of a sudden we look tomorrow morning, we see, hey, first hour's range 15 points. Let me make the adjustment from smaller rotation size to larger rotation size, looking for my trade location. All right, these are easy steps you can put in that take you out of having to trade from an emotional standpoint or by the seat of your pants, and give you more guidance to think through the problem without being emotional about it. And that was the last cup of coffee for the day. Okay, let's go to the next question. Okay, what was the day's range? Greatest move up, greatest move down. Well, clearly, this was the biggest. So there's 2 moves down on that to start with, right? Here, we'll get rid of this for a second. Don't need it. Greatest single move down, top to bottom, right? Let's just go ahead and call it 2105 to 2095. 10-point rotation down. Greatest move up was from 2100 up to 2107.50. So the first thing that tells me is actually sellers had the upper hand for the first time today. They had the greatest move to the downside. It's been a couple of days since they've had anything to talk about, meaning people who were betting to the short side. So good for them. I want to let everyone know it's 10 minutes to the close. If you have a profit in this trade and you have not taken a scale, please take something off the table, put money in your pocket. I don't care where it runs to at the end of the day. It sucks getting your butt kicked. As a matter of fact, here, I'll sell a little bit more right here.
Order filled.
2099. I have 2 contracts left just for the thrill of it. Okay, so we'll see where it goes. Right, I'm not short. I'm not bearish. I'm just trying to set a good example. It's the last 10 minutes, not the place to be to try to hit the home run. Right. Okay, so 10 points down. Rotation as a whole from top to bottom was 0750 down to 2095. That's 12 points of rotation. Right. So downside actually had its first decent moves in a while. Okay, so let's go through here. Was NQ in sync with ES? Well, the answer to that is, yeah, pretty much. Actually, NQ did exactly what we wanted to do. It led to the upside. ES followed, right? That was a big help. We knew not to fade ES early. We saw the strength in NQ. Little clue like that can keep you from having to take a stop early in the day. One of the biggest problems when you're trying to stay consistent in your trading is, you take 1 or 2 early stops, you get 1 or 2 late trades, and you're exhausted by the end of the day, and you look at your P&L and you're like, I didn't make any money. I worked all day. I had 2 really good trades, but the 2 crap trades I took early in the day really kind of nailed me, right? Instead, because we stayed clean all day, right, this trade down here ended up putting you positive and making you a winner for the day and letting you walk away with something in your pocket instead of being frustrated, okay? Make sense? That's the point behind that question. And NQ was, I would say, was stronger and led in both directions, right? That second trap on NQ was really valuable. Okay, tick was showing balance the majority of the day. I'm not going to pull the NYC tick up, but it was in balance most of the day until we broke. And obviously, this break came on news, right? You say, well, were we in balance? We were. Look at how the chart laid out here. High established, break to a new high, attempt to push back in. Break to a new high, push back in, right? Now we've broken the low over here, right? Just because we're in balance doesn't mean that it's limited by a rotation size, right? Broke the low, what have we done? We made, here's the bottom of this earlier range, 2100, this is first hour low. What have we done? We've trapped back inside first hour low and are pushing back into the middle. We're in balance. Okay, and we got great location off of that in a very calm, relaxed fashion, right? Okay, so market was in balance today, building energy or maybe starting the process of building an energy. Very important to note, we still have not broken prior day's low, right? I think this is the fifth day or sixth day. We'll go count it in a second, right? Are we one timing? Are we one timing on the day time frame? If so, where would the market have to trade to end the one timing structure? Well, at this point, the way we're closing, we're going to have to trade below 2095 tomorrow. And that'll end the one timing structure. We went over that in the meeting this morning. We should be pretty clear on that. This is exactly why I pointed out just a couple minutes ago, by the way, guys. People are looking at this going, oh, dude, we're closing on the low of the day. They try to short in here. They're just asking to get their butt kicked into the final 10 minutes of the day as we push up and back to 2104. Okay? Very likely that we push back up. Why? Because this is just all poorly auctioned. Okay, lastly. Okay, where are the open gaps above and below? Good question, right? The market likes to fill in the open gaps. Let's look at the volume profile. Okay. So, I want to keep this chart, so let's copy it. And since I'm recording this and it only goes in a very small window, we'll open it like this. That should fit. Okay, so let's get rid of all this. Okay, where are the open gaps? Open gap there at 2104, 2041 and a quarter. Not likely that we hit that anytime soon. 2068.75. No. And nothing above, right? This is year-to-date high. Okay, so there's not much in the way above. Market likes to close gaps, right? This, we had a series of open gaps that had been open. This was the last one right here. I don't see anything else. Let's see. Let me close that. I don't see anything else. And that can be good and bad, right? Usually what we do is we find rejection off of an open gap. We didn't find that this time. We've traded above it. We've obviously just backside tested it. It's pretty clear that we got to get below this 2095 to come in and explore these areas below. But importantly, so we're at 2100, right? We really want to look at where's our potential range. I would say that this 2070 from 2100 would be an extreme edge of the range. I'd want to look to take a long if I got remotely. If I could get a test down here, I'd want to try to take a long for a slingshot back to the upside, right? On the upside, both of these targets, both these areas are reasonable. The year-to-date high and this 2068 and 3/4. Remember, we don't know where the market's going to go other than, obviously, I have the swing indicator and we have our structure and we have rotation size, but we don't have to know which one it's going to do. We just need to know where the key resistance and support levels are. And also, just from a general structure standpoint, we know we got to get below prior day's low. It looks like we more than hold this into the close. So really the key question is, can we get tomorrow below today's, whatever today's low is? So that gives us a pretty good idea of where the key points are above and below. The major key points, right? There's also 2115 and 2120 to 2122 is pretty important, and 2110 to 2112 is also important. Okay, 200-day moving average. I don't have the chart open right now. Y'all can pull it up. I can tell you that 20-day. I think it's sitting right there at 2070 to 2075. We were closing below it right up until this gap, so I think it's sitting right here at 2075. So we're above it for right now. What type of price action did the market display during the first hour? Did the price action change at any point in the day, say from directional move or balance to balance, or from balance to directional move? Usually, the way that it'll set up, guys, give me just 1 second, please. Hey guys, sorry about that. Is the mic clear still? Can everyone hear me? Bill, can you still hear me clearly? Anyone? Can y'all still hear me? You can. Okay, thanks, Randy. Okay, so where were we? What type of day? So this day obviously moved from balance. We broke out of balance, right, temporarily based on whatever the hell is going on in Greece, right? And we've pushed back up into balance. So we had a break, and this break, you just simply label this. That break was based on news, and that gives you an insight, right? If the market starts trading differently tomorrow, then we'll know. But right now, the only thing that caused us to break from balance was a quote unquote news story, right? And by the way, look how we closed. Remember when I pointed out that everyone's like, oh, we're going to close on the low of the day? It's a rare, rare time that we close on the low of the day. Okay, guys? It's a bad bet for the most part. It's a low odds deal. Okay. And everyone should have made out with somewhere between 1 and 4 points on this trade, right? Okay. And I'll go ahead and close the position at 2150. So all done. That was excellent, right? So at least I think it was. So which part of the day had the larger range? I'm going to say, well, the afternoon clearly had the larger directional move. So I'm going to go with the afternoon. And that's not uncommon, by the way, when we get into balanced days, slow, grindy summer days, right? Most of the time, you would say throughout the year, the AM has the best range. A lot of times in the summertime, we'll push right to the end of the day, and everyone will have their hand forced. Okay. Now, this is questions over the mental part of the review of the trade. Each person has to answer this for themselves. First of all, did I have my written trading plan out on the desk while trading? I did. Did I follow my own rules for entering, exit, and stop? I did. Okay. Both where I entered here, I got conflicting signals. I covered for basically flat. I had my swing trade telling me it was long. I had my structure trade telling me it was short. And when I get conflict, the easiest way to resolve that is not to take risk until I have clarity, right? My assumption is there's a million trades, and at any rate, clearly, I wasn't going to stick out the trade in balance with all the news that was flying around, and I made the right decision. And then the other part is going back to the 3 C's, right? Clarity, conviction, right? And look, right? Look at this, how we're re-auctioning all of this back up, right? This is all these shorts who overcommitted down here, getting the crap kicked out of them. Now, I wonder if there's news after market. Did the Greeks vote? Either way, look where we're re-auctioning. This is perfect. Right back up to this. We didn't quite reach it, but pretty darn close, right? So it's unfortunate that we waited till after market to get that last little push. Okay, next. Did I trade after exceeding my maximum stop? No, for the day. But this is an important question. If you did, why? Go over your feelings of frustration, desperation, anger, and use Dr. Menaker's acronym RULE. Recognize, understand, label, and express. It's very key. If you bury your feelings while you're trading without acknowledging them, they'll come back to bite you in the ass for most people. Okay? Unless you're an ice cold person, most of us don't. Did I feel frustrated any part in the trading day? What was the trigger? I did. 2104. I got frustrated that I had a great short setup structurally, and I got a swing long in between there, and it forced me to come out of that trade of what was eventually a 10-point trade, and that it took so long. Not much you can do about that in the summertime. It's part of the deal. It's summertime, right? NQ is just kicking ass back to the upside, guys. This turned out to be a really beautiful trade. Did I judge my performance based on the amount of P&L or based on following the trade setup and execution? And I did base it on following my execution, right? Swing long, and this is really important. Even if you only took a point out of this trade, guys, document this trade to the T. I called the swing long setup, 50-60 rotation back in, right, for trade location. We sized it appropriately, and we did not press the short. Those are like, each of those steps is a big deal, right? First of all, recognizing clarity. I knew my setup. Secondly, commitment. I took my setup. I was committed to taking it, right? And then the clarity, commitment. I'm missing the last word. Starts with a C. Composure, right? I never got upset. The trade didn't quite pop for me as quickly as I wanted to. I might need to work on my patience in that area. It's harder when there's such a news-driven event and we can't get a 3 or 4 point scale right out of the gate, right? So 2104, we're missing our target by a point all the way back up there. That was very, very good, right? And then my execution was good. My scales were good. I minimized risk, right? And I was prepared, importantly, right? A lot of times what we'll do as traders, I know I do this, I'll be sitting here and I'll go, the trade has to work here, dude. I took it here. There's no way it can't not work, right? And you put all this just crap load of pressure on you so you never can get the extension up, or you just bail out of all of it after 5 ticks, right? You have to be able to look at it and go, okay, it could have just taken off from here, right? That was one option. It came back to the 50-60. That was the second option. And you had to acknowledge, hey, it could come back to 2093.50, and you have to be okay with that, right? If you're not okay with it coming back to 2093.50, there's no way you can stick it here for this run back up, right? That trade where we get the swing long and then it comes back and makes one more swing low, it's great when we get it because it creates these tsunami moves, right? Which is really, really nice. It only happens 30 to 40% of the time, so the rest of the time you're going to sit there staring at it. So you have to go through and figure out mathematically what size you can afford to trade when we don't have ideal location, but we have swing trade setup, all right? And then you also have to be honest with yourself based on your account size. Do I need to take this via options? Do I need to take this via futures? And when I say options, binary options. Or do I have to, because of the size of my account and my risk tolerance, do I have to have a perfect setup? And the perfect setup would have been 2093.50, trap back above 95, push to the upside, re-auction this whole thing. We just happened to V-shape it where we did, right? And then the other part that I don't have on there, right, is the part of desire of, God, I had the trade right, but I didn't have enough size on, right? And there's a very good way to fix that. Build a schedule, which I work on with the guys I coach one-on-one. Build a schedule of increasing trade size and do that on a per trade setup basis. And then if you execute it right over time, let's say you can only take this trade right here with 2 contracts, right? I have so much scribble up there. Let me get rid of it. You can only take this trade with 2 contracts here. You took one for 1 point, you took another one here, and you go, I should have had it, right? Well, you know the way to fix that? Keep taking this trade correctly, right? And then eventually you can move from, after a series is done correctly, you can move from 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, right? If you can get down here, and you can take 4 contracts, or some of y'all take 10, 20 contracts, right? Take 20 contracts down here, maybe you can only take 5 up here because of the uncertainty of the risk. That's something I can't answer for you. The risk part you have to figure out on your own. But your risk has to be 2 parts. It can't be so big that one trade blows you out, right? You should calculate based on being able to take 4 stops in a row and your account's still surviving easily, right? Now, do we get 4 stops in a row? Extremely rare, right? But that's the whole point of it, of the calculation, is to make sure that you can stop, you don't take a massive drawdown. And I want to point something out here, and I read this yesterday to a friend of mine. I'm going to close out the meeting like this. It's Paul Tudor Jones, okay? And the reason why I say that is everyone who comes into this business goes, dude, I want to kill it. I want to kill it, right? Each and every person. So I know my voice isn't beautiful, but I'm going to, um, um, okay. Everyone wants to trade perfectly and never take any heat on their trades, right? So let's go through there. He goes, so the reporter asks him, my impression is that you often implement positions near market turns. Sometimes your precision has been uncanny. What is it about your decision-making process that allows you to get in so close to the turns? This is his response. I have a very strong views of the long-run direction of all markets. I also have very short-term horizon for pain. As a result, frequently, I may try repeated trades from the long side over a period of weeks in a market which continues to move lower. And then the question is it a matter of doing a series of probes until you finally hit? Response, exactly. I consider myself a premier market opportunist. That means I develop an idea on the market and pursue it from a very low risk standpoint until I have repeatedly been proven wrong or until I change my viewpoint. I want to go through here. And I'm going to leave it at that. I'll go through and cover some more tomorrow on this. But he talks very specifically. If he's on a losing streak, he cuts his trades back. If he's on a winning streak, he pushes his trade size. But here's the other thing that I want to point out. Look what we did today as a whole. If you take the body of work as a whole. Okay. This morning, at least this is how I view my own trading, right? Chop. I don't want to get involved in this. NQ led to the upside. EOS is delayed. We had the Fed chair starting to speak at 9 a.m. Not my ideal location for taking a trade, right? We come up to Globex high, but NQ is pushing highs when we test this Globex high, and the Fed chair is speaking, not ideal. But it was at this time, right before 10 a.m. to identify. I said if we trade back in and we close below 2105, right, that should open the door for us to push lower. So the first question I have for myself was my read right? Was my thesis correct? Yes, it was. Did I make any money with that thesis? No, I didn't. Okay, but I know that if I can continue to read that thesis correctly, because I've done it, that same trade, we've done that trade multiple times in the last 2 weeks, right? Where it's set up properly, the swing indicator gave us a setup, it came back in. I ended up with a conflict in here. Otherwise, as painful as this would have been, I probably would have stuck this out, right? And it would have paid nicely. Next, did I get all pissed? Important thing, because I know that you know, and I know, and I can tell you there's a point in my career, I am throwing shit here, right? I see this come down, I covered here for a flat, and that was 10 points, $500 a contract. Shit's flying, at least in my room it is, right? And I've talked to enough of y'all to know I'm not too far off the mark with other people, right? I'm pissed. I didn't get pissed. What did I do? I immediately go back to my trade plan and go, what's my setup? I've got a swing long indicator. I typed it out into the private Twitter feed. We all knew to get set up. We saw here, we said, what's our trade location? Okay, well, the easiest place to get in at this point is let's see if we can get a 50-60 retrace, but we have to be prepared for it to come back to 2093.50. I take 1/3 of a position here. Takes a little while, 20 minutes to get out of here, right? So I scaled again, and then I left a piece. I was hoping we get this piece before the close, right? This run up here. And then we made one last important decision, right? If I'd allowed myself to get frustrated here, and let's say I didn't get the retrace here, right? It shot up. You cannot discount this decision that came in right here, which was this. Because I had the thought in my own head, I know other people did too, dude, Greece is about to vote. If Greece misses that vote, we're going to tank. We've had 10 to 30 point gap downs. They effed it up 2 times before. What's the odds they F it up again? And what do we say? The odds of closing on the low at the end of the day are incredibly low. Stay with your trailer in here. And while the trailer didn't give the last little piece of kick, we had the right idea, and we didn't take the misstep that would have inevitably, right? If you shorted here, you went from, even if you missed this and you missed this, right? What did you do? You turned your day into a massive loser right at the end of the day with no wiggle room whatsoever. Okay, so those are the 3 pieces that that I wanted to go over for homework. I think this is a really good display of how to handle yourself, even when trades that you get set up and they set up almost perfectly and you got conflict. And this was a great example of actually JD, who's one of my coaching clients, and he's in the room. I don't know if he's in this afternoon, But JD told me he was. JD's been and thank you for your service, JD. 22-year F-16 wing commander, and he told me if you get into a situation with a hostile, as he calls them, right, your enemy, right, and you are at a disadvantage for whatever reason it is, right, even if you outnumber the enemy, if even one of your planes is at a disadvantage, unless you absolutely must, right, it's a life or death situation, unless you absolutely must engage, get out of the arena of engagement as quickly as possible, regroup, and reattack, right, when you have the edge. So in here, we had the right idea. We had almost all the advantages. We got conflicting signals. We got out. We stopped. We regrouped. We didn't press. And we ended up with a nice, profitable day. Does anyone have any questions? I hope that helped. It turned into a mini coaching session. Okay, guys, that's all I got. Make sure you follow your trade plans. Do your homework, write in your journals. It makes a big difference. It's the difference between being a boom bust trader and being a consistent trader. That's all I can say. I hope everyone has a great night. This is going to end up being the trade review, so can't get much better than that anyway. So real time and quite effective. Look, we're going to come right up here and close this gap. See how you can just look at the poorly auctioned area like that? And you can almost, it doesn't do it every time, but it does it a lot of the time. There's no point in shorting when you've got a poorly auctioned area like this. Into that, you're just asking to have your ass handed to you. Or you can take the money from everybody else who's trying to do it, which is kind of cool. Okay, everyone, have a great night. My pleasure, Ron. Talk to you later, guys.